Let's take ourselves to a time before the modern internet, before broadband and cellular communications, to the dawn of the video games industry. At the start of the games industry, one titan reigned amongst them all, Atari. However, as time went on, much like the Belkins, they had lost much of their consumers to an overwhelmingly growing amount of competitors. ColecoVision, Intellivision, Sears Telegames, Magnavox Odyssey 2, Tandyvision, among others. And for all these consoles, hundreds upon thousands of games, some terrible quality and others that have even sparked outrage amongst other factors, such as unethical practices in the games industry, inflation which would lead to the games industry rallying for the US Mint's adoption of a revised dollar coin, similar to the shape of a conventional quarter, to milk more money out of the struggling industry, and the overall total loss of control by Atari in the 2600s publishing restrictions, making it so that, much like PC gamers can nowadays, make, publish, and sell games on their own, with no need for licenses from Microsoft or Apple, for instance, or from CPU manufacturers like AMD or Intel. The games industry was more or less in complete and total freefall, as around this time the general public slowly lost trust in the quality of the games and consoles being made, as well as the sheer volume of games available, making it difficult for games to be sold to consumers at all. In June of 1984, the crash began following a shift from decently made, more expensive games to low-budget, subpar games, and a dramatic downturn in the industry. After this, Magnavox left the games industry, and companies like Imagic would eventually shutter their doors later on that decade. Furthermore, the infamous Alamogordo ET cartridge burial site in Alamogordo, New Mexico, would take form following Atari failing to turn a profit. Home consoles were alone. The crash would take its toll on the growing arcade game industry. According to N.R. Kleinfeld of the New York Times in 1983, the crash caused the closure of 1,500 arcades out of the 10,000 that were operational at the time, with arcades that survived the crash taking on losses in revenue of around 40%. At the turning point of the decade, 1985, the damage to the industry was done. From 1982 to 1985, the video games industry suffered a catastrophic failure, with sales of video games falling by $3.1 billion, from $3.2 billion in 1982 to $100 million in 1985. At this point, the games industry was assumed all but done for, with analysts believing the industry collapse was a death knell for interactive entertainment for the foreseeable future. Fortunately for you and me, Nintendo's near superhuman approach to business in the West, following success with the Famicom after Japan's crash, known as the Atari shock, salvaged the games industry. Now I'm going to ask you, does any of this sound familiar? Well, let's look at the situation in the industry right now. Firstly, we have companies like EA, Bethesda, and Activision putting out tons of products that are subpar, along with smaller companies putting out similar products of inferior quality. See Digital Homicide Studios if you don't know what I'm on about, which is yet to cease, even with vehement customer disdain and outrage. Secondly, we have numerous publishing platforms vying for control of the vastly growing PC gaming sub-industry. Valve's Steam Game Store, EA's Origin, Ubisoft's Uplay, and the Epic Game Store. All of them with many issues, and some that honestly have no reason to exist. Thirdly, greed has plagued the industry with microtransactions and loot boxes in nearly every major game released. Now there are some instances where all just for microtransactions, such as in games like Elite Dangerous, where income relies on it for the sake of improving the game and helping keep the lights on. Those billions of star systems in the Milky Way don't run on hopes and dreams, you know. However, in most cases, microtransactions merely serve to fill the wallets of higher-ups within the company that publishes and releases these things. Fourthly, the lifespan of your average game rarely exceeds a year. Have you noticed that games like Call of Duty, Halo, Battlefield, Assassin's Creed, The Crew all have DLC content that is stretched out over a year, and then the game is more or less left to rot after said year? It's called planned obsolescence, and it's a bitch. Fifthly, as evidenced by the EA spouse expose written by game developer and partner of ex-EA employee Aaron Hoffman, the Telltale Games closure, and even the advent of game industry unions such as Games Workers Unite and France's Syndicat des Travailleurs du Jeu Vidéo, mistreatment of game developers and other games industry workers has helped weaken the once strong and innovative industry. And finally, the political divide in the public has helped divide the games industry as well, as evidenced by Gamergate and the ensuing effects it had on the industry. On one hand, we have the political zealots who seek to corrupt the games industry for the sake of faux inclusion and fighting quote-unquote racism, as well as pushing radical propaganda. And on the other, we have the gamers who are fighting to keep the free spirit of the games industry alive. Nowadays, it seems that everyone gazes to indie development for good games, as it seems all the talent has been drained out of the AAA industry, even though it seems the sixth ingredient in this shit show plagues indies more than AAA. If you haven't seen the pattern here, let me draw it out for you. The games industry is on the verge of a second crash. Combine all of these factors, along with other factors that I haven't even mentioned, and you have what amounts to quite literally the near exact same recipe that caused the games industry to die nearly 40 years ago. I can safely say, unless the industry does something to resolve this mess, it'll take a miracle to avoid a crash before, at the latest, 2023. It doesn't help things that we recently encountered a brief market crash which was due to a reevaluation of the worth of many markets, and it also doesn't help that games like Fortnite are slowly but surely dying due to the slow winding down of interest in developing for the battle royale genre, as well as the inevitable slow waning of public interest in the platform. If you're expecting me to say something to rally the troops and get people to try and fix this mess like I did back in my days involved in Gamergate, then you're up shit creek. Personally, I feel that a video games crash is inevitable and thoroughly needed to revitalize the industry and get us back on track again. It may hurt a lot of us, seeing franchises and companies, especially those we love, die as a result. However, I feel that, much like Larry Fulk, this twisted industry needs to be reset. Thanks for watching.